Welcome to a journey into the shadows of reality, where the lines between the ordinary and the extraordinary blur. Tonight, we delve into the chilling depths of Reddit, unearthing true stories shared by those who experienced the unexplainable. These aren't your typical ghost stories or urban legends. They are raw, first-hand accounts from people who died to share the most terrifying moments with the world. From the whispers of unseen entities to encounters with the inexplicable, these tales will grip your senses and leave you questioning the boundaries of reality. Each story carries a haunting thread of truth that you can't ignore, making them more than just campfire fodder. So dim the lights, put on your headphones, and prepare for an unsettling experience as we bring you the first of 3 terrifying tales. These aren't just stories, they are warnings, echoing of fear from the unknown. Are you ready to listen? Story 1. The I Spy with the Black Box. It was a quiet winter night when Caleb, an otherwise unremarkable 9-year-old, saw him. The snow had muffled all sound, creating an eerie stillness in the house. Caleb's room was his sanctuary, filled with action figures and posters of superheroes that lined the walls. But that night, Nutter felt safe. He woke up abruptly, his heart pounding in his chest, but he couldn't remember what had startled him. It wasn't long before he noticed something unusual at the foot of his bed. Illuminated faintly by the moonlight streaming through the blinds, sat a boy about his age. His head was tilted downward, hiding his face. But what struck Caleb immediately was the box in the boy's lap, a small, ornate container as black as obsidian. "Who are you?" Caleb managed to croak, his throat dry from fear. The boy didn't respond. Instead, he slowly raised his head, revealing an unsettling picture. He had no eyes. Dust swoop, pale skin as his tucked shirt had been. Caleb's breath caught in his throat, but before he could scream, the boy spoke. "Kip gistave. Goodbye, Ted." His voice hollow and cold, as though it came from far away. He extended the black box toward Caleb, but Caleb froze, unable to move. The boy's hand trembled slightly, as though holding the box was a burden too heavy for him. Again, as suddenly as he had appeared, the boy vanished. Caleb's room was silent once again, except for the pounding of his heart. The next morning, Caleb convinced himself it had been a dream, but when he looked toward the foot of his bed, his blood turned cold. The black box was sitting innocuously as though it had always been a part of his room. He hesitated but eventually picked it up. It was heavier than it looked, and its surface felt icy to the touch. He tried to open it, but the lid wouldn't bud. It had no seams, no lock, and no visible mechanism to suggest it could open. Caleb shoved it under his bed, deciding it was better to pretend it didn't exist. Over the following weeks, strange things began happening. Caleb would hear faint whispers at night, bodies that seemed to emanate from under his bed. His belongings moved on their own. His favorite action figures would be found in odd places, their heads turned to face the black box. His parents dismissed his stories, chalking it up to an overactive imagination. One night, as Caleb lay in bed trying to ignore the unfamiliar whispers, he heard a new sound, a soft knocking. It came from the direction of his closet. Caleb froze, his pulse quickening. The knocking grew louder and more insistent, until finally, the closet door creaked open. Standing there was the boy, eyeless as before, holding the black box in his hands. "I told you to keep it safe," Goodbye whispered, his tone carrying an edge of anger. "Where did you heard it?" Caleb couldn't speak. He wanted to scream, to call for his parents, but his voice was stuck in his throat. The boy stepped closer, placing the box on Caleb's desk. "This isn't just a box," Goodbye said. "It's a key, and you're keeping the door open." With that, Goodbye disappeared again, leaving Caleb shaking and alone. The whispers that night were louder, more insistent, and Caleb couldn't sleep. He didn't dare touch the box again. Years later, Caleb had all but forgotten the incident. The black box had vanished, as mysteriously as it had appeared, and he convinced himself it had been a vivid childhood nightmare. But one evening, as he tucked his daughter into bed, she said something that sent chills down his spine. "Today, Goodbye with no eyes came to see me, she said, clutching her teddy bear tightly. He told me to keep the box safe. Caleb's world tilted. His heart raced as he asked her to describe the ball. Her description was eerily accurate, down to the eyeless tackets and the black box. Where the box now? Caleb asked, trying to keep his voice steady. She pointed to the foot of a bed. And it was sitting as though it had never left. This time, Caleb didn't hesitate. He picked up the box and drove to the edge of town, stopping at the deepest part of the river. Without a second thought, he hurled the box into the water, watching as it sank beneath the surface. A sense of relief washed over him as he drove home, believing the nightmare was finally over. But that night, as he lay in bed, he heard it, a soft knocking, coming from his closet. What's in the box? And where does it keep returning? Maybe some questions are better left unanswered. Story 2. The premonition that saved a life. It started as a casual family dinner, the kind where stories were exchanged and laughter echoed through the house. 8-year-old Emily sat at the table, picking at a food while her grandmother, Nana Rose, watched her closely. Nana Rose was a kind woman, known for her sharp intuition and unwavering love for her family. That evening, Nana Rose said softly, her voice tinged with concern. How about we stay home tonight? No trips to the restaurant, okay? Emily's parents exchanged puzzled glances. It was Friday, but tradition to visit Dragon's Nest, a cozy Chinese restaurant they'd been frequenting for years. But there was something about Nana Rose's expression, her furrowed brow and the slight tremble in her voice, that made them hesitate. Whoa, Ma? Emily's father asked, his tone light but curious. We go every week. Oh, it's the home. Nana Rose shook her head. I just had a bad feeling. Call me silly, but I think we should stay home. Emily's parents debated for a few minutes. In the end, they decided it wasn't worth arguing. They ordered takeout instead, trying to shake the attention that had settled over the room. Later that night, as Emily pleaded with the tears, the family heard a series of frantic knocks at the door. It was a neighbor, Mr. Johnson, his face pale and eye wet with fear. Turn on the news, he gasped. There's been an explosion downtown. Emily's father grabbed the remote and switched on the TV. The screen showed a scene of chaos, flashing lights, fire trucks, and smoke billowing into the night sky. The actor's voice trembled as she explained that a gas explosion had occurred at none other than Dragon's Nest. The death toll was still unknown. Nana Rose sank into her chair, clutching her chest as tears filled her eyes. I knew it, she whispered, her voice trembling. I felt it. Over the next few days, the family learned the grim details. The explosion had been caused by a gas leak in the kitchen, something the restaurant staff had been unaware of. The blast destroyed the building and claimed several lives, including diners and employees. Emily's parents couldn't stop thinking about Nana Rose's warning. How had she known? She insisted it was just a feeling, a premonition she couldn't explain. Months passed, and the family tried to move on. But Nana Rose's bad feelings became a topic of fascination among relatives and friends. Whenever she voiced a concern, people listened, no matter how trivial it seemed. Sometimes her intuitions were minor, a storm arriving earlier than expected or a neighbor's lost pet returning home. Other times, they were unsettling. One evening, as Emily's parents were tucking her into bed, Nana Rose appeared at the doorway. Her face was pale, her lips pressed into a thin line. Don't drive tomorrow, she said firmly, her tone leaving no room for argument. Emily's father frowned. Why not, Ma? I don't know, Nana Rose admitted, wringing her hands. But it feels wrong. Please, just stay home. Go skeptical. They heeded her advice. The next day, a massive pileup occurred on the freeway they would have taken, involving over a dozen cars. The thought of what might have happened sent chills down their spines. Their years passed, and Emily grew up hearing countless stories of her grandmother's premonitions. Some were life-saving, while others were merely eerie coincidences. As an adult, Emily often wondered if it was a gift or a curse. Nana Rose herself admitted she sometimes wished she didn't know when danger was near. But one thing was certain. The night of the Dragon's Nest explosion changed everything. It wasn't just a tragedy narrowly avoided. It was a reminder of how fragile life could be and how sometimes the unexplainable could be the difference between life and death. Even now, Emily sometimes hears Nana Rose's voice in her dreams, whispering dental warnings. And though she no longer questions the source of her grandmother's intuition, she always listens. Because in the end, it's better to be safe than sorry. And there you have it. Chilling tales pulled straight from the depth of Reddit, where the ordinary turns extraordinary and fear lingers long after the lights go out. These stories remind us that sometimes, the most terrifying, but this is just the beginning. There are countless more stories waiting to be uncovered. Tales that will grip your soul, make your heart race, and leave you questioning what lies in the shadows of your air. So, if you're brave enough to return, stay tuned. We'll be back with more spine-tingling accounts from Reddit's darkest corners. Until then, sleep tight, if you can.